Today we will be looking at the three Greek architectural orders, namely the Doric, the Ionic and the Corinthian order. They can easily be distinguished at first glance. The Doric column, for example, does not have a base. The Ionic column has a capital with four spiral-like ornaments called volutes. And the Corinthian column has a characteristic capital with leaves all around it. For having a closer look at those columns, let's begin with the Doric one that you can see on the left in this image. When it comes to the origin of this column, the Roman architect Vitruvius tells us the following: at Argos in Greece, King Doros built a temple for the goddess Hera, and this temple had, by chance, the Doric form. Let's have a look at the composition of a Doric column. As there is no base, the shaft of the column stands directly on the ground floor. Canonically, it has 20 vertical grooves called flutes which are separated from each other by sharp ridges. Exceptions to this rule can be found. The Temple of Poseidon at Sunion, for example, has Doric columns with only 16 flutes. Most of the extant Doric columns had a height of about 4 or 5 lower diameters, which made them the most compact columns of all ancient orders. Seldom the shaft was monolithic. In most cases it consisted of several drums which were placed on top of each other. The Doric capital is very simple and consists of only 3 parts. Above the necking, which is called hypotrachelion and bears the number 17 in our image, there is a conic section, the echinus. Number 16. Above it there is number 15. It is a square slab of stone, the abacus on which the entablature rests. While the Doric column is very simply constructed, the Doric entablature does have some interesting features like the Doric corner conflict, which I maybe address in a separate video. Let's have a look at some real Doric columns. This is the Temple of Hephaestus at Athens. It was built in the 5th century BC. Here you can see clearly that the shafts of the columns consist of several column drums which have been stacked on top of each other. This here is a photo of the Parthenon on the Acropolis at Athens. You can see, for example, the flutes of the columns with the sharp ridges between them. And here you can see the remains of the Temple of Poseidon in Sunion, not far from Athens. In contrast to the Doric one, the Ionic column has a base. It consists of a square slab called the plinth and one or more cavettos beneath a boltel which is called torus. This would be the Ionic base common in Asia Minor. In Attica the Ionic column base consisted of a cavetto between 2 boltels and had no plinth. The shaft is equipped with 24 flutes which are separated from each other not with sharp ridges as on the Doric column but with relatively broad fillets. Main ornaments of the Ionic capital are the aforementioned volutes that define the front side of the capital. Furthermore, the capital is adorned with vegetal embellishments. As on the Doric capital, the Ionic one also has an abacus on which the architrave, the entablature, rests. But the abacus of the Ionic capital is much more smaller than the Doric one and often decorated. All in all, the Ionic column is much more slender than the Doric one. Its height usually equals around 10 lower diameters. Concerning the origin of this column form, again Vitruvius has a story to tell. Ion, the leader of the 13 Greek colonies in Asia Minor, founded several cities whose inhabitants called their land referring to their leader Ionia. And when they built the temple of Artemis in Ephesos, they called this architectural form Ionic. Here you see the eastern facade of the Erechtheion at Athens. The Ionic columns have Attic bases. And this is a Ionic column of the Temple of Artemis at Sardis in modern-day Turkey. It has a column base with cavettos beneath a boltel, characteristic then in this area. Now to the third and last ancient Greek order, the Corinthian one. Again, our friend Vitruvius knows how this form came into existence. Once upon a time in Corinth a young girl died. The parents collected the girl's toys in a basket and put it on her grave. They put a stone slab upon it to prevent it from tipping over. Since the basket was put on the root of an acanthus plant, the acanthus sprouted, climbed the sides of the basket and rolled into volutes when it hit the stone slab from beneath. A sculptor by chance walked by the grave, saw the plant growing around the basket and was thus inspired to create the Corinthian capital. It is remarkable that the story only is about the Corinthian capital. And this fits the architectural reality, because the Corinthian column only has a specific capital. The rest of the column and the entablature are Ionic. The choragic monument of Lysicrates at Athens is the first known incidence in which Corinthian capitals are used on the exterior of an architectural structure. Here is a detail of one of these capitals. And one can admire Corinthian capitals by looking at the Temple of Zeus Olympios at Athens. The building was begun in the late 6th century BC, but it was not until the 2nd century that the order was altered from Doric to Corinthian. After more than 600 years of building, the temple was finally finished in the 2nd century AD by the Roman Emperor Hadrian. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe so you won't miss new ones.